The secret power of dark chosen ones to destroy false spiritual beliefs. I want you to imagine something radical, that the truth you're seeking, the ultimate spiritual freedom, isn't found in the light. Not entirely. Not in the endless love and light affirmations, not in the sanitized, commercialized spirituality sold to millions on social media. What if the real path to awakening true, terrifying, liberating awakening lay hidden in the shadows? What if the ones who have been called dangerous, dark, or demonic are actually the ones who have gone farthest, dared deepest, and returned with the secrets that no one else had the courage to face? We've been taught to fear the dark. From childhood, we heard stories about evil lurking in the shadows, about hell beneath our feet, about punishment for disobedience. But what if that fear was designed to keep you from exploring your own power? What if the so-called dark ones, the rebels, the outcasts, the seekers who rejected the mainstream were actually chosen to destroy the illusions that keep humanity enslaved in false light?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
You see, the dark chosen ones are not evil. They are not malevolent. They are not the villains of the spiritual story. They are the ones who have been marked by life, by trauma, by chaos, and instead of running away, they went into it. They descended into the underworld of the self, and they faced the monsters that others only pretend to slay. They are the ones who looked at their pain and said, "I will not be broken. I will not be lied to. I will not wear the mask of peace while I am bleeding inside." And because of that, they found something ancient, something terrifying, something liberating. The secret power of the dark chosen ones is this: they are immune to illusion. They have burned through the lies. They have walked through fire. They have seen the false gods crumble, the glittering spiritual movements reveal their hollow centers. They have seen the gurus fall, the mantras fail, the rituals become prisons, and they do not turn away. They do not flinch. They rise with a new kind of power, one that cannot be taken, one that cannot be bought. But what is this darkness? Is it hate? No. Is it destruction? Not in the way you think. It is truth in its rawest, most unfiltered form. It is the courage to confront what others avoid. It is the silence that follows the death of illusion. It is the force that demands authenticity, no matter the cost. You might be wondering, why would anyone choose this path? Why not just stay in the light, in the love, in the comfort of pretty teachings and soothing meditations? Because the light without shadow is a lie. Because there is no growth without pain. Because anything that cannot survive the truth is not worth keeping. Have you ever asked yourself this? Why do so many spiritual people still suffer? Why do they meditate for years and still feel empty? Why do they chant and pray and visualize, and yet their lives remain small, caged, and fearful? The answer is simple: because they are still trapped in false beliefs. Beliefs that tell them to avoid negativity. Beliefs that tell them anger is bad. Beliefs that say you must be high vibrational at all times or else you're failing. These are not truths. These are weapons of control disguised as wisdom. The dark chosen ones see through this. They see the manipulation. They see the fear disguised as peace. They see the ego hiding behind the mask of enlightenment, and they call it out. Not because they want to destroy spirituality, but because they want to save it. You must understand something deep. The path of the shadow is not the end. It is the beginning of real light. The kind of light that does not blind you, but reveals everything. The kind of light that does not comfort you, but transforms you. The kind of light that does not make you feel good, but makes you free. But to reach this light, you must first face your darkness, all of it. Your rage, your grief, your envy, your lust, your shame. Not to indulge it, but to understand it. To reclaim the power you gave away when you were told those parts of you were evil. You must look into your own abyss and say, I see you. I am not afraid of you. You are part of me, and I will not exile you anymore. This is what the dark chosen ones have done. They have integrated their shadows. They have stopped pretending. They have become whole. And because of that, they carry a fire that burns through deception. Let me ask you a question that might change your life. What lie are you still holding on to because it makes you feel safe? Really think about that. What belief do you keep repeating, even when your soul knows it's not true? Maybe it's the belief that if you're just positive enough, your trauma will heal. Maybe it's the belief that you need a guru to tell you what to do. Maybe it's the belief that if you ever got truly angry, you'd lose your spiritual path. But what if the opposite is true? What if your anger is sacred? What if your pain is a portal? What if your rebellion is your initiation? The power of the dark chosen ones is not in destruction for destruction's sake. It is in the destruction of illusions. And make no mistake, this is war. Not a war with others, but a war within. A war between the self you were told to be and the self you truly are. And only one can survive. I speak not just as a seeker, but as someone who has walked through his own hell, who has screamed at the sky, who has broken under the weight of spiritual lies, who has risen again, not as a saint, but as something far more dangerous, a human being who no longer pretends. You can feel it, can't you? That something in you is stirring, that the old teachings no longer satisfy, that the safe path is starting to feel like a prison, that your soul is calling you deeper, darker, further than you've ever dared to go. Follow it, not blindly, not recklessly, but fearlessly, because what you will find in the dark is not death, it's rebirth, not evil, it's power, not separation, it's wholeness. This is not for everyone. Most will turn back. Most will cling to the light, to the comfort, to the illusion. But if you are one of the few, if you feel the fire inside you, if you know you were born to destroy what is false and awaken what is real, then you are one of us, a dark chosen one, and your time has come. The fire that burns within how pain becomes the key to hidden power. There comes a moment in every awakened life where the path splits, not in front of you, but inside you. One part of you wants to run back to comfort, back to numbness, back to the stories that kept you small. The other part, the deeper one, begins to burn, not with rage, but with something far more ancient, the sacred fire of transformation. That fire is pain, not just emotional pain, but soul pain. The kind of pain that doesn't ask for sympathy. It asks for surrender. It doesn't want you to feel better. It wants you to finally feel everything. What most spiritual teachings never tell you is that pain is not the enemy. Pain is a teacher. And for the dark chosen ones, it is the first initiation. You don't walk into the fire to be destroyed. You walk in to be revealed. Every illusion you've ever believed about yourself, your worth, your power, your identity melts when you truly face your pain without running, without numbing, without hiding behind spiritual bypassing. You emerge not as a victim, not as a warrior, but as something beyond either, a vessel of truth. The false spiritual teachings tell you that if you're in pain, you've done something wrong, that your vibration is low, that you've attracted it by not being pure enough. But that's a trap, a lie designed to keep you addicted to false positivity. Pain doesn't mean you're failing, it means you're feeling. And to feel is to awaken. Have you ever sat with your pain long enough to hear its voice? Not just the surface suffering, but the deep core wound you've been carrying for lifetimes. That wound has wisdom. It holds the key to your power. But most people never access it because they're too afraid to look. They cover it with affirmations, with yoga poses, with diet trends and crystals. But no matter how beautiful the ritual, if it's used to escape, it becomes a cage. The dark chosen ones don't escape. They descend. They let the pain speak. They let the tears fall without shame. They allow the rage to roar through their bones like a holy storm. They become intimate with their own destruction, not to wallow, but to alchemize. Because here's the secret: when you truly feel your pain, it transforms from suffering into power. It stops being a weight and becomes a weapon, not to hurt others, but to cut through illusion. I think about the greatest transformations in your life. Did they come when everything was easy? Or did they come when you were on your knees, stripped bare, face pressed to the floor of despair? That's when the fire entered you. That's when you stopped pretending and started becoming. The world tells you to heal quietly, to suffer politely, to wear your wounds like invisible scars. But the dark chosen ones know that your pain is not something to hide, it's something to honor. Every scar is a sigil. Every wound is a doorway. Every breakdown is an initiation into deeper layers of power. You don't need to be fixed, you need to be forged. And this is where the fire becomes sacred. Because once you've walked through it, once you've died and resurrected yourself from your own ashes, there is nothing anyone can do to you that you haven't already faced. That's real freedom. The kind no guru can give you. The kind no book can teach you. The kind that only comes from choosing to face yourself completely. Let me ask you something dangerous. What would happen if you stopped running from your pain and instead walked straight into it? Not with drama, not with self-pity, but with reverence, with curiosity, with the awareness that maybe, just maybe, your pain isn't here to destroy you but to initiate you. What if your suffering was sacred? What if the fire inside you wasn't a curse but your calling? You see, once you stop fearing your darkness, you start accessing your real power. Not the kind that dominates, the kind that liberates. The kind that allows you to walk into any room, any battle, any silence and remain absolutely unshaken. Because you've already died once, you've already burned, and what remains is untouchable. That's why the dark chosen ones are feared. Not because they harm others, but because they cannot be manipulated. They see through the lies. They see through the systems. They see through the masks that others still cling to for safety. And they carry a fire that exposes everything. This is not about ego. This is about essence. When you've made peace with your pain, when you've turned your wounds into wisdom, you become a mirror for others. Some will hate you for it. Some will run. But the ones who are ready, they will see you and remember who they are. So I ask you now, will you keep pretending that your pain is a problem? Or will you finally see it for what it is, the fire that will set you free? Because once you do, your entire life changes. Not just on the outside, but in the deepest chambers of your being. You stop chasing peace and become it. You stop seeking truth and embody it. You stop fearing death because you've already walked through it and found yourself more alive than ever before. This is the secret the false spiritual world doesn't want you to know, that your pain is your power, that your shadow is your guide, that the fire you've been avoiding is the very thing that was meant to awaken you. And now it's calling your name. The death of illusion, how dark chosen ones expose the spiritual lies that keep you trapped. There comes a point on the path when the veil begins to lift. Not all at once, not in some grand explosion of enlightenment, but slowly, like smoke clearing after a fire. And when it does, you start to see it, the spiritual world, the teachings, the teachers, the practices, all of it, not as sacred truths, but as carefully constructed illusions. And that realization for most is terrifying, because it means everything you believed might have been keeping you asleep instead of waking you up. The dark chosen ones are not fooled by appearances. They are not seduced by robes, rituals, or radiant smiles. They've seen too many gurus fall, too many masters become manipulators, too many communities turn into cults. They have learned, through pain and clarity, that truth is not always dressed in white. Sometimes truth wears black and speaks in silence. Sometimes truth comes not as comfort, but as confrontation. False spiritual beliefs are not just innocent misunderstandings. They are prisons. They are systems designed to keep you passive, obedient, disconnected from your raw authenticity. They tell you that if you're angry, you're wrong. If you're questioning, you're ungrateful. If you're suffering, you're low vibrational. They sell you the idea that peace means perfection, that love means self-denial, that growth means obedience to a path someone else created. But the dark chosen ones destroy that, not with violence, but with vision. They walk into spiritual spaces, and their very presence causes discomfort. Why? Because they carry a frequency that cannot be manipulated. Because they ask the questions no one dares to ask. Because they break the unspoken rules, don't challenge the teacher, don't speak your pain, don't question the doctrine. But they do. And when they do, illusions fall. Let me tell you something that might shake you. Most of what you're told is actually spiritual bypassing. It's avoidance. It's a glossy cover over deep, unresolved wounds. It's performance. You've seen it, the influencer who talks about unconditional love but can't hold space for dissent. The so-called healer who shames others for having boundaries. The community that preaches unity while exiling anyone who questions the leader. That's not healing. That's hierarchy. That's not awakening. That's assimilation. And it's not your fault if you fell for it. We all do, at first. We're hungry for truth. We're desperate to feel whole. So we latch onto anything that promises salvation. But eventually the soul rebels. Eventually the fire rises. Eventually you begin to see, and once you do, there's no going back. The dark chosen ones are those who saw through the illusion and chose to burn it down, not out of hatred, but out of love for what is real. They don't seek followers. They don't ask for allegiance. They simply live in truth, and that alone is revolutionary. They don't need to scream. Their silence is louder than most sermons. They are living proof that you can walk away from the beautiful lie and still find God in the ashes. But here's the hardest part. To step into this truth, you have to let go of your spiritual identity. The one that made you feel safe. The one that gave you meaning. The one that told you who you were. You have to allow it to die. And in that death, you will feel lost. You will doubt everything. You will feel like you're falling into nothing. But that nothing is where your real self begins. So ask yourself now, what parts of your spiritual path feel like performance? What teachings do you cling to out of fear, not truth? What wisdom have you accepted without ever challenging it? Because the real path, the dark path, isn't about finding answers. It's about burning away everything that isn't true. It's about staring into the void and realizing you are not broken, you are becoming. No one can give you that. No one can teach you that. You have to walk through the illusion yourself. And when you do, you'll understand what the dark chosen ones have always known, that sometimes the most divine thing you can do is destroy. Reclaiming the throne of the soul, why only the dark ones can awaken the sleeping gods within. There is a throne inside you, not a metaphorical one, but a real, energetic seat of power, a place where your soul's sovereignty rests, waiting. Most people will live their entire lives without even approaching it. They will pray, they will fast, they will chant, they will serve, but they will never sit on that throne. Why? Because it requires something terrifying. It demands that you stop pretending to be small. To reclaim this throne is not about ego. It's not about superiority. It's about ownership. Ownership of your divinity. Ownership of your choices. Ownership of your darkness and your light as one inseparable force. That's why the dark chosen ones are the only ones capable of awakening the sleeping gods within, because they are the only ones who do not reject any part of themselves. They are whole, and in that wholeness they become divine. You see, we've been taught to bow, to shrink, to submit. We've been taught that God is somewhere else, that heaven is after death, that holiness is earned through suffering and obedience. But the dark ones know a deeper truth, that the gods never left. They are buried inside your bones, your blood, your ancient memory. And they do not awaken through prayer alone. They awaken through power. Not the power to control others, but the power to become fully, unapologetically, dangerously yourself. That's the final step of the dark path. Not destruction, not rebellion. Embodiment. You become the very thing you were seeking. You stop following the divine and start channeling it. You walk into your life not as a seeker, but as a sovereign. Not as a servant of spiritual systems, but as a living force of awakening. You no longer look up to the gods, you become one. And that terrifies the world. Because a sleeping human is manageable, but a waking God, that's a threat to every system built on obedience, guilt, and fear. The dark chosen ones have always been this threat. That's why they've been demonized. That's why they've been banished, silenced, burned, erased. Not because they were wrong, but because they were right. Because they carried a power that could not be controlled. And now, that power is rising again. In you. But here's the truth most won't tell you. Sitting on the throne of your soul is lonely. It's not glamorous. It's not always joyful. It's real. And real is often raw, unsanitized, and intensely sacred. When you claim your full power, you lose the comfort of belonging to the herd. You lose the soothing numbness of lies. You lose the illusion of being saved. But in return, you gain everything. You gain clarity. You gain strength. You gain the ability to face anything without collapsing. But most of all, you gain yourself. The real you. The God layer of your being. The one who remembers. So I ask you now, not to impress you, but to awaken you. Are you ready to sit on your throne? Are you ready to stop waiting for permission? To stop seeking validation? To stop negotiating with your own soul? Because the only thing standing between you and your divine power is your attachment to who you think you need to be. Let it go. Let the false self burn. Let the spiritual masks fall and rise. Not as a light worker, not as a servant, not as a seeker, but as a sovereign force of truth, whole, wild, luminous, and dark. This is what the dark chosen ones have always known, that you don't need saving. You need remembering that the gods are not in the sky. They are inside you, waiting for you to wake up. And now, the final choice is yours. Will you rise, or will you keep sleeping?